My name is Cyndel Brunell. I'm the Southeast Program Manager with EVNoire and EVHybridNoire. I'll introduce the second half of this later. And so to start off, I know a lot of us have potentially heard about EVNoire and EVHybridNoire in this audience. Some of you have come up to me and asked about some of our initiatives that you're aware of. But we are an e-mobility intelligence group. We focus on electric, connected, shared, and autonomous solutions. And really what that looks like is typically we're doing some type of research to answer some type of question or problem that's been identified in a community, and then we're working on collaborative partnerships to address that based off of the findings. We primarily focus on frontline communities. These are communities that are often underrepresented and are facing some of the highest impacts of transportation-related emissions and greenhouse gases. So that can be rural communities, that can be, we're working with women, veteran, Black communities, Hispanic communities. Here in North Carolina, what I think is particularly interesting is we've been doing research here since 2018. So we have multiple years of data, and I think I say particularly interesting in that we can see differences in North Carolinians' perceptions and transportation access pre-pandemic, during pandemic, post-pandemic. And all of that has allowed us to work collaboratively with other coalitions, other nonprofits, organizations, government, in order to make electrification and e-mobility plans, education campaigns, but we will kind of get to that shortly. So we work with everyone. You'll see a diverse range of stakeholders represented on this slide, and that's really important to us. And in this room, I get to briefly put on my student affairs hat, which is where I originated. I was from the sustainability world on college campuses at FSU, at Clemson, and for a while in higher education, there was a huge focus on leadership. Everybody wanted to cultivate leaders. There were leadership institutes. It was identified as, an area of growth for students. And then I believe there was an article, it was Inside Higher Ed, that said, hey, we need to stop cultivating leaders. We need collaborators, because what happens when you put a bunch of leaders in a room together? Everyone has a way forward that they're advocating for, and sometimes they're not really good at actually, figuring out what to do to move the conversation forward, to say, hey, I recognize this is really important to you, this is really important to me, here's the middle ground and how we advance it. So working with a variety of partners, whether that's in the private sector, government, state, philanthropic, ride-share companies, autonomous vehicles, just a wide variety of folks that we're working with. We also have a presence internationally, so our Global EV Alliance. We are also one of the lead organizers of National Drive Electric Week and National Drive Electric Earth Month. So you're going to be seeing a ton of programming coming out from us in the next month because it's Drive Electric Earth Month. And we have a website that you can go to. It's Deem Drive Electric Earth Month, and you can put in your zip code, and it'll tell you events that are happening near you. Just a little plug there. So also want to quickly mention that we are also the founders of EVHybridNoire, which is the largest, most diverse group of EV drivers in the country. This is our nonprofit. We do some advocacy work through this avenue. And so depending on the work that we're doing, sometimes we show up as EVHybridNoire, sometimes it's EVNoire, can be kind of confusing, and sometimes people are like, why do I have two emails for you? And it's just because we have two separate hats that we wear depending on the work that we are doing. Also want to mention our e-mobility fellowship program. We have an e-mobility fellowship pipeline program, and we are partnered with 18 different HBCUs across the country. We have a great presence in North Carolina, and it's not just HBCUs. So we started with HBCUs, but now we also work with tribal colleges, community colleges, technical colleges, HSIs. And so here in North Carolina, we work with North Carolina A&T. We also have representation from UNC Pembroke. And the students that participate in this program are provided a stipend to learn with us every single week. We partner with all of the stakeholders that we mentioned on that prior slide, and they'll come in and they'll talk about different opportunities that exist in the clean energy, clean car space. And that's everyone from graphic designers to engineers. It takes a lot of different people to work and move forward in this industry. And then the students also put on in-person programs, typically in partnership with our staff. And they also facilitate a capstone project where they identify a problem throughout the semester and they propose a solution. And I always am a capstone judge. The students are incredibly creative and they present solutions that I would have never thought of. So it's always my favorite event that we do throughout the year is attending the capstone and being a judge. Oh, okay, another slide. That is not showing up. This thing is saying it's ready for lunch. But this slide essentially is capturing, we're working with 25 of the largest cities throughout the country to advance mobility roadmaps and projects. And this is where I'm going to just go ahead and touch on what we are here to talk about today. So when Trey reached out and said, hey, could you come and present at SETRI, specifically wanted to talk about our Electrify Virginia campaign and the dealership certification that we've been working on. And believe it or not, those programs are kind of interconnected. So Electrify Virginia is another way to think about how you're going to engage a large amount of people. And so for us, the Electrify Virginia project started with formative research. And so we did a robust transportation landscape analysis, and we essentially identified several different markets that we were interested in Virginia to make sure we had urban representation, rural representation, representation from communities of color. That way we can have direct insights for how to communicate and market specifically in those areas. Because we found the same kind of marketing that works in cities definitely does not work in our rural areas. For example, rural areas tend to really like radio ads still. That's not something that we're finding in a more urban market. That market is a lot more tuned into social media, for example. So being able to tailor the marketing campaigns to the places that are already heavily utilized by populations and also through trusted sources really is what helps increase our reach. So within this project, we're having a reach of about 3 million impressions, 23 million. Last year. So in last year alone, okay, yes, and this is Amira. She's our communications manager, so she has all of the numbers for this campaign. But over 23 million people reached in Virginia through an ad campaign that consisted of airport ads, taxi ads, print ads, social media ads, showing up and being in person. We employed, high-tech and low-tech options in order to reach as many people as possible. That is guided by an advisory board. So that's the mechanism by which all work is conducted for this campaign. So we have a group of stakeholders that meets and helps decide, how we're going to advance the different marketing components of this campaign, host events, organize events, really breezing through this. But essentially, that group has a pretty consistent attendance, and there's some people who only show up when there's, big decisions to be made or, those kind of things. But the folks that are showing up consistently have really shaped the development of the campaign and how we are engaging people. Now, part of this is also doing events like ride-in drives, and this is where that dealership certification piece starts to come in, because we love to work with local dealerships when we're hosting ride-and drive events in order for them to make connections in their community, potentially advance some car sales. But we would have experiences where dealerships would show up and bring electric vehicles, and they'd be on like 15% charge. And supposed to be, ready to go for a day-long event, and they'd be asking, okay, how do we charge the vehicle? And we're like, oh, yeah, that's a great question. And so we found we were providing a lot of education even for the dealerships that were showing up with their electric vehicles. And then we further had this compounded by the fact that we work with a variety of rideshare companies. And they have ambitious goals to electrify their platforms by 2030. And they were saying, there is a gap right now where we have rideshare drivers that are maybe interested in electric vehicles, but they go to dealerships and they have questions, and the dealers can't really answer those questions because it's still so new to the sales folks that are working the floors. And so we were able to develop a dealership certification program that has a curriculum to help educate people who are working sales floors, coming to events like ride and drives, in order that they can effectively answer questions, the common ones like about battery concerns, range anxiety, but also just knowing the cool things that you can, figure out, if someone really likes camping and saying, hey, an electric vehicle, you might not think it's a great vehicle to take camping, but it is, and here's why. You can power up your coffee pot in the morning and get you some nice fresh brewed coffee. Some cars, of course, you can have camp mode overnight, that kind of thing. But it takes, thinking outside of the box and what makes electric vehicles unique and how that really highlights someone's lifestyle to get them really excited about making a purchase. So we have this certification program and are able to assess kind of incoming and outgoing knowledge, and that's something that we're continuing developing. And again, the rideshare platform is actually one of the biggest mechanisms for driving this forward, outside of just what we've experienced in our ride and drive events. So I would love to talk further about both of those programs. So if you're interested in learning more about our Electrify Virginia campaign or our dealership certification program, we can definitely connect later today or offline. I'd love to share some resources with you.